Hi, this is Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I am joined for the fourth session in my consultation with Edgar. Looking forward to discussing the action steps of the 3 columns and seeing what he can do to carry things forward in a way where his system is built within my system. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can sign up for any of my seminars or get any of my mind-body guides, formerly known as PDFs, on our website, www.crushingdoubt.org. Now, without further ado, here's Edgar. Edgar, I'm very excited to be back here with you. I always enjoy spending time with you, but and this is a unique thing. I'm consulting with you about mind-body pain, but we also have a show of our own where we talk about all kinds of things. So it's like you're in a different category.
We're getting to know each other all the way around, yeah.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing. We're becoming best friends, Dr. Dan. That's it. I'm adding you to my best friends list. That means I want a Christmas gift this year. But listen.
I'm honored, and that's a small price to pay.
Yes.
So let me explain what we're doing today. And let me review a little bit because, especially for the people who are watching, but it's really important for you too. We've gone through the 3 columns. We went through what's the function of the emotions column, the onsets and upticks and symptoms. We went through the doubt column, how to break that kind of chronicity if you've got something going like that. And last time we talked about power and how to figure your relationship with yourself, with other people, with your symptoms, and whether you're feeling good about that. And each time, I feel like you're soaking it up beautifully. Just from my perspective, I hope it's feeling that way to you.
I feel like I am too. I feel like I am, even though since our last session, I've had more questions.
Mm-hmm.
More questions. I've realized that my emotions column is way bigger than what you and I talked about. You and I just talked about a little bit of it,
Right.
But the more I think about it, I feel like I got to deal with more with my emotions column. My mind has been like nonstop, thinking. So I've gotten pains, I've gotten pain. I feel like I could control the pain. I could control the pain. When I get the pain, I get in my own head. I start thinking. Even if I don't pin it, I feel like the fact that I'm actually looking for it makes me forget about the pain in the first place, which actually does work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this last week I've been just in my emotions, trying to get everything together, still realizing that it's days that I wake up that I don't want to do nothing, and I got to battle with that myself, But it's been working, I feel like I have soaked it in, and I feel like I'm not even, like I said, nowhere near done, like I need to keep on at it until I check everything off that list.
Well, Edgar, that's something to say to not only to you, but to everybody. This is a process. I don't think of it as you do 4 sessions and then boom, you're done with everything. Mm-hmm. But the 4 sessions are designed to get you the basic information you need and to start your process of doing that mind-body map. And today, we're going to add something to it that is going to help solidify you on your way. And then we continue. You can text me. You can ask questions. You know where to find me. We can. We'll go on Brothers in Arms, and we'll just shove Eric off to the side. And I'm kidding, Eric. I'm kidding. But you're right. This is a process. But the process is underway, and the fact that you're asking questions is a good sign. I say to people all the time, the way to get relief is through questions. You got to get your questions answered, and I'm not going anywhere. You just let me know if you need information on it.
Yeah,
I want you to feel better.
Have been there. Every time I have something, last time I texted you, just that simple text made me feel good. At least I felt like, I'm not alone in this. But yeah, I feel like there's so much work to do. Like I'm learning from it, and it's like I'm eager to one at a time, I guess.
So let's do this. Normally, what I do in the 4th session is I do what I call action steps. And the action steps are not necessarily things to do actively. They're action steps of the mind more than anything else. But what we're going to do is we're going to pick, I have all these different action steps, and I will suggest some of them, but you and I are going to kind of hand select a few to be able to utilize in each column. But before we even do that, I'm going to jump to the doubt column because you have questions. Questions are in the doubt column. And one of your action steps is going to be never stop asking your questions until you feel like they're fully resolved. So let's even engage in that a little bit. Let's show you how that works. So give me a question or two that's come up, and we'll start to talk about it. Well, okay, how do you talk yourself through it? How do you get your questions answered? Sometimes through me, sometimes through reading, sometimes through your own science and logic. So what questions do you have?
Okay, quick question before we get into that question, right? Like I said, I started listening to The Divided Mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. So I'm wondering if is living in the now part of this, what we're working on more, or this, like, how would I say it? Like, one of my main questions is that I can't stop the mind. Like I'm always, like, as much as I try to focus on the now and what's happening right now, my mind always wanders. And I'm catching myself a lot. I catch myself. I'm like, oh my God, no, stop. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, I'll drift. I'm like, I've told you, it's crazy. And that's like one of my questions, like, should I focus more on the now and what's happening now? Would that help me with what's happening inside? And when I experience any pain, any emotion, how do I deal with the days that I wake up that I don't want to do nothing? The days that I'm dragging and I don't want to reach for no one, and I just want to be like,
So let me offer this thought. There's an answer to each and every one of those questions, and you're going to build your system within my system. Like, I've given you the column system, but you need an answer to each thing. What am I going to do? And this is what action steps are all about. What am I actually going to do when I wake up and I don't want to do something? When I don't want to do anything? So I'm going to give you an idea of an action step that you can do, and you're asking the right questions, because the question is, well, which thing do I do when? Because the fact is, and I want to acknowledge this, my action steps, they all run counter to each other depending on what's happening. The nice thing is the system's built so you've got the different columns so you can know, all right, wait a minute, I don't need to deal with that action step because that would be about power and I'm having an onset of a symptom, so it's emotions. So you can start to figure out where to look. But let's go with when you wake up and you don't feel like doing anything. To me, that's actually a power column thing right there. And I'll tell you why. It is a global feeling about yourself or you in the world. So the first thing I want you to do is to figure out which column are you going to work in. When you're talking about action steps, figure out which column you're working in. If you feel bad to that level, anything that broad, and it's not about a specific symptom, that's a power column experience. You're not feeling good in your relationship with you. So then I want you to zero in on, all right, what is it? What's happening here? So do you hear how there's a specific thing you're going to do at times like this? Mm-hmm. You're going to get like a protocol. You could even write it out. You could be like, when you wake up in this mood, this is your action step. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, if you and I can come up, let's say, with 15 to 20 action steps of the various kinds of experience you have, then you've got a map. Yeah. So in this case, I would say you wake up and you say, now, why am I feeling bad about myself? Now, that alone doesn't help enough. That just sets you on the path. Let's use it right now. I mean, did you wake up that way today? Is that part of what was going on, or?
No, not today. I mean, today it was okay. This weekend was good. But last week I had a couple of days, that I was like,
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so there's two things that are always going to be important for figuring out an action step. One is, you always make sense. So in a way, that is an action step, to think, I always make sense. That counters the, how am I going to know what to do? I mean, ultimately, I have to convince you that's true, but I promise you it is true. I've seen it in thousands of people. I've seen it in myself thousands of times. I've even seen it in you over the course of this consultation. You make perfect sense. So try to think about that mood as like a mind-body experience. It's a symptom. It means something. Mm-hmm. Maybe you woke up feeling that because the night before something felt bad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm my own worst critic. Like, like and now after our sessions, I realize how much I've been holding myself back, with all the doubts and everything else. And I feel like I'm my worst enemy. And now I see it more.
Oh, okay, wait.
So what? What was that?
I have a solution.
Go ahead.
So this is a power action step. So listen, I want to say to everybody who's watching out there, normally I would go, let's go through some action steps of the emotions column, then some, just because I tend to be kind of ordered in my thinking, then action steps of the doubt column, and then action steps of the power column. But we're already getting to a power column question you had and an action step that can be used. So when you're criticizing yourself, the thing I want to remind you is it's like you've stepped out of your core narrative. You've forgotten who you really are and what's really fully going on. Any criticism of yourself is not really going to be accurate. That's coming from some negative place, and you want to use the core narrative to get back to who you are. So, do you have your core narrative with you? It's okay if you don't, but
what was the core net? What?
Do you remember the core narrative where we talked about those 3 sentences?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to read them, please. Don't ask me to read them.
You don't have to read them, but
I have them, yeah, but I do have them.
And we have it on recording, so you can go back and get it. But the gist is you want to remember who you are. Because when you're criticizing yourself, you're stepping outside of that. The core narrative is a very empathic statement. It cares about you, and what it says is you're not feeling the way that you are because there's something wrong with you. You're feeling the way that you are because something didn't go well for you outside of you.
In my case, right, I feel like it has a lot to do with the accident and the fact that 1.5 years ago, everything came to a stop, And as many people out there through this whole pandemic that were home, you get used to that being home, even though I was home, but I was in a negative place in my head. And now I gotta step back out. It's like basically starting all over again. Okay. So the doubts is like, oh man, how can I do this? Should I? Am I? How do I get back out there? And then I've had days that I wake up like that, and I tell myself, I've dragged myself out of bed, and I'll be like, okay, let me go for a walk. Let me just get out the house, go for a walk. Then you feel good about yourself, and then you go about your day. The other day I stepped out. And I went to the comedy club, just passed by, I just wanted to be in that environment that I miss so much, that I complain about missing so much, but I'm still holding myself back from going out because the world's just opening up and still everything is,
Yeah.
And I went on Friday and I pulled up and there was a whole line to getting in. And I'm like, man, I haven't been here in so long. I'm going to have to tell them who I am again, go through people. And I almost hesitated not to go in. You're like, okay, let me just get out of here. And I waited around. I got in. I walked in. Somebody recognized me right away. It was great. And from going in, I picked up 2 gigs just from showing up, which is what I tell people all the time. And I'm practicing what I preach, and I'm realizing what I preach and how I need to bring it in my life.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind. And that was like an experience, like a lesson that night. That night, if I would have listened to myself and the doubts in me, I would have just sold the line. I was like, let me get out of here. I'll come back another day. And I would have walked away. But the fact that I stuck around and I pulled through, and then I felt like, wait, I was back in my environment, talking to the guys, talking about comedy, and 2 gigs popped up right away just from walking into that comedy club that night. And it was beautiful, man. It was like a lesson. It was like, wow, I did it. So next time I question myself about should I do this, should I go out, should I do it, dude? Because something good will come out of it if it's meant to be,
So here is a power column action step that is exactly what you did, but I want to put it into words so that you can always fall back on this. Be in your own journey. Now, what I mean by that is don't forget the story of your life as you want to write it. You want to enhance your comedy. So sitting at home and not going there, that's not you being in your own journey. Go for your journey, right? That's what you did. So it's funny because you already did it. And a lot of people know how to do some of the things that I'm telling them, but one of the reasons that I can be helpful with action steps is I label it so that they can be like, oh, and you can even write it down. Be like, yeah, that's the thing to do. Mm-hmm. So if I had to pick one power column action step for you, it's always be in your journey. Mm-hmm. Your, like the key journey. I don't mean like always be with yourself when you go to buy some Twinkies or something like that. That is not central. But driving forward your comedy career, making connections, going and make people laugh, writing things. This is a way to be in your own journey. Mm-hmm. When you wake up in a mood where you don't want to do anything, you're out of your journey. Yeah. You don't realize it, but you've fallen out of your journey. Okay?
And that sets up a whole line of other issues that you deal with. And it just, I think it just weighs us down even more, you know?
Yes. And then I think it also makes you think there's so many different actions I could take. Don't think about the specific actions. Think about be in your journey. And then there will be thousands of actions that work. I'm going to call up this friend, or I'm going to write this thing, or I'm going to, work on this set. Or I'm going to book something. Just be in your own journey. Does that make sense to you as like an action step?
No, it does.
And if you keep that in mind, see, the reason action steps can be so useful is they don't have to be that many of them. You can pick like 2 or 3 in each column, write them down, and just be like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to do this. So we found one of them. I would say this is absolutely one of your key power column action steps. Make sure you're
one of the most important ones.
It might be the most important one. Mm-hmm. All right, now let's jump back. Let's jump back to the other columns, and we're going to go through a couple of action steps because we're really finding out what's your system going to be. We just found part of it. That's a huge thing we just did, and it's something you already can do, but I think sometimes you forget that you can do it, or
like Friday was the perfect example.
Right.
Friday night driving home, I was like, wow, like it opened my eyes, like, do it, stop, stop giving excuses, stop making excuses for yourself, And I think like I said, it had to do a lot with the accident, the fact that I was home for so long and I couldn't do nothing. Like I was waiting for it and then it couldn't happen. And it's like, and so you drag. So then it goes back to like the emotions and the depression and everything else. And then it's like you create a little monster inside of you that completely takes over. What you do is wonder, why am I doing the same thing over and over again? It's because I'm not snapping out of it.
But if you always fold it back into the story of you, then things make sense in a different way. Let's take the accident, for example. The accident was horrible. It was horrific for you, and it had led to a big struggle. But coming out of it, you've had all kinds of things happen that are pretty big. Like your comedy, I think, is going to be even better now because it's connected to who you are. Mm-hmm. The accident did lead you to me in these sessions, and I know that that's been helpful. We even have a show together because of it. It's like
that's right.
You don't always know what's going to lead to what. If you're thinking about your journey and who you are, that's the power column action step that makes it so that almost anything that happens beyond absolute tragedy is part of your journey. It's part of the flow. You're not stuck in this.
It is. Someone told me on Saturday that you walk a lot. I've been walking a lot. And someone said, hey, you walk a lot. And I thought about it. I said, dude, because a year and a half ago, I couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk all over again. So now I feel like every time I go out and I walk, I think about how, those days that I couldn't walk. So now I do it more. I'm more eager to do it, Even when I'm tired, I push myself one step in front of the other. Let's do this. Because I remember that times that I was sitting in the sofa and I couldn't get around and I needed help to do everything, And so that has been a good power, source for me as well, to disconnect from everything, so, push me out.
Let me give you one other power column action step, and then we're going to go to the other columns. Okay. Another power column action step, and look, I have a list of there's like 150 different action steps I can give you, and there's more, but that I just made a list so I could give people, and they can kind of choose from them. But this is one that I think is going to apply to you. Accepting the fullness of your trauma. That means accepting the fullness of what happened to you in your life. And when you can do that, that's another way of accessing your journey. So when you're walking, you're remembering, I was a guy who had an accident that took away my walking. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. And it factors into who you are more generally. And if you think about who you are generally, remember all those things we talked about, feeling alone or feeling not fully seen or fully appreciated?
Yeah.
That's a trauma. That's just
Mm-hmm.
not easy. Mm-hmm. It feels good to feel seen. And when you don't feel seen, there's nothing that feels worse.
Yeah. Or when you realize someone taking advantage of you as well.
Yeah.
That I feel like it's another one for me.
Yep.
That takes me completely out.
And what you need to do with that is to remind yourself, you, within your relationship with you, matter. That other person, they don't matter. They have just lost the privilege of Edgar. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's another power column action step, is being fiercely in your own corner. No matter what, you fight for you. You be better to you than other people have been. Mm-hmm. So those are 3 power column action steps that I gave you. Be in your own journey, be fiercely in your own corner, and accept the fullness of your trauma. We can go over them more, but it's things like that. They're like buzzwords that remind you of things you can do in your thinking to get you into a different place. So let me show you in the other columns, and then we'll build this out. But this is a start. So in the emotions column, we know this. We use the emotions column when there are onsets and upticks in symptoms. Can you identify anything that you've done that you'd call kind of an action step of thinking that has helped?
On the emotions column?
Yeah. What has helped so far? And then I'll help you get it into words.
I think, how could I put it? As like you just said, accepting that the trauma that happened to me, it was part of my journey. I think I was hard on myself on that whole accident and everything else. So it brought back the emotions. My mom, the setbacks about my mom, thinking about my mom and everything else, that sets me back a lot. But at the end of the day, I always think that I have an angel looking over me. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different. So, I mean, the relationship with my son, which is another one that we haven't even talked about, and everything else. And so I've been seeing my emotions. I really can't tell you exactly how it helped me, but I could actually tell you that I'm realizing how many I do have. When
I'm going to read two possibilities to you that I think you're doing. With you, it's a lot about articulating what you're already doing. But first of all, moment-to-moment experience. You're tracking your emotional life over different moments. The pain when you were in Vegas and then afterwards, or the moment-to-moment experience with the police officer, or the moment-to-moment experience when you're, feeling the loss of your mother more than at other moments. You change emotionally all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really about tracking moment-to-moment thinking. That would be an action step of the emotions column. Track your moment-to-moment thinking. Know that your physical experience relates to that. Here's another one. Challenging faulty narratives.
Explain.
Okay, so you're already doing it, but when you start to get down on yourself or get critical of yourself or feel that you're defeated in some way, you can reframe it in a way that actually helps you feel better. That reminds you, no, that's not true. I mean, take your mom with comedy. we had, actually, it's funny. I can't remember if it was on Brothers in Arms or on this series.
I
but
think it was in Brothers in Arms.
I think it was Brothers in Arms. We were talking about the fact that she never seemed to believe in your comedy, but when somebody, a pretty, well-known person, you kind of didn't like what you did, she was pissed.
She was furious, yes.
Right.
She called me every single day. When are you gonna get a real job? And at the end of those moments I think about, and I'm like, man, I would do anything to get one of those phone calls again. But yeah, she didn't agree with it. But at the end of the day, she defended me,
right.
With it.
So it would be a faulty narrative to say that she actually didn't respect what you were doing or think you should be doing it at all. I think the more accurate narrative is she was overly worried about it, as moms tend to be, and that got in the way of her being able to support it more fully. But did she actually fully support you and love you? I think she actually did.
No. Yeah, she
right?
did. She did. I think when it came to mom, I'm the oldest, right? And my young brother, my sister, they both married. They both got their families. They both got their homes. And here I am nonstop, nonstop from one relationship to the other, to from plane to boats to this. And, and she always, I felt like I was always her main worry. She didn't worry about my sister and my brother because they already had their, I was the one that was like, oh my God, when you're going to find a good woman, why don't you find a good woman? And I'm like, man, I've tried, Mom. I've tried, and she never never question. I would never question the love she had for me.
Right.
My parents loved me. I mean, incredible. I appreciate now older seeing the things that they did for me when I was younger. I could see it even more, But I wish it would have been different when it came to it. I wish she would have said, oh, my son. I wish she would have said, my son is a comedian proudly. Right. Instead of saying my son is a super son or the super or whatever, whatever it may be,
Yeah. Well, listen, that would be a faulty narrative we need to help you challenge with good self-talk, where you talk yourself through it. This is an action step. How do you talk yourself through it? Where you might say to yourself, you know what? Even if my mom couldn't get it, I know that being a comedian in whatever way you want to talk about it, you could think of it as like, it's a badge of honor. It's we're warriors out there. We get out there and we talk about what is. And I didn't hide from my dream. This is good self-talk.
Mm-hmm. Even though now thinking about it, I think I have a power column, and I did it years ago because it bothered me. Not so much now, because at one point I told myself, look, it's my journey. I can't expect everyone to see it. As long as I see it, that's what counts, so don't hate on the ones that don't see your vision or don't see your journey. So when I told myself that, then I didn't let it bother me as much. So when she would say something, I'll be like, and I'll brush it off, and then, I would go. So I didn't let it bother me as much. So now thinking about it, so I did deal with that years ago.
Yeah, and that was a power column, being in your own journey kind of action step.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's another action step. You want to pinpoint something that's going on in the present with the things that hurt from the past. Like when you were in Vegas, for example, and you were able to get those symptoms to go away by leaving Vegas. Once the present thing was over, then the symptoms were over. But if you wanted to get even further with that, you could think about, now, why is this not... Why am I not feeling good in this situation? I'll tell you, like when I go to Vegas, it does not feel good to me, and mostly. I mean, it's interesting, can even be fun, but it feels to me like everybody's in a different place than I am. Nobody is seeing it the way that I am. Everybody's saying this is the greatest place, and I'm thinking it's overwhelming. It's kind of icky and weird, and and the thing is, you want to attach that to your past. I grew up in a family that was different than other families. So when I'm in a present day situation where I'm feeling different than everybody around me, I know that's an emotional vulnerability. and I connect to it. Another one happened just last night. I went to a kid's birthday party, and we were watching The Princess Bride. And you know the line, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." You know this line?
No, actually, Dr. Dan, I have no idea what you're talking about, but the fact that you were going to act it out, I'll let you do it anyways. Because you can tell you got young kids. You're like, my son is 27
Well, people who know The
years
Princess
old.
Bride will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But listen to the line is, this guy is trying to avenge his father's death. I'm sitting there at a kid's party. The lights are all off, and we're outside, and this guy's trying to avenge his father's death, and he's saying how angry he is about it. And, of course, my father died. So I felt sad about it. And I connected that present moment to the depth of me. In a way, nobody would have, we were just watching a movie. Like, people are thinking, are dead fathers always going to bring up stuff for me? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
When I watch Field of Dreams.
Let me ask you this. So, when you recognize it, right? When you tell yourself, okay, this is this, then what do you do from there? So, like, for example, like you said, when you go somewhere that you feel like you're out, like you're not, like you feel like you don't belong, and then you trace that back to how different you were because of your family. What do you do after you get to that point? When you pin it, then what happens next?
Okay, so two things. Great questions. Two things. One, you don't try to get out of the feeling of it. Let yourself be in the feeling. Say, fine, okay, this is where I am.
Good one. That's a good one, actually,
Right?
because I think that's what happened to me in Vegas. I was so stressed because I couldn't get out of it.
Yep.
And I felt like I was trying way too hard. I was making it worse. I was pressuring myself because I'm like, why can't I get out of this? And I was thinking about it. So that's a good answer,
Right.
actually.
Be where you are. It's okay to go to Vegas and spend the entire time thinking this is not my place.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Because you accept.
Accept exactly who you are. There should be no question. There's nothing wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
No, just note how it is for you, and be in that. And then the other is to, there's actually hundreds of different things you could potentially do with this. But I think one thing that you want to remember also is these action steps in the emotions column, they're only about getting rid of the symptoms. So if a symptom's not even coming up, you don't even really need to deal with it. But if the symptom is coming up, then you want to get very specific. Because I think one of the things that can go on for people in those situations is they know they don't feel comfortable or something doesn't feel so good, but they don't know what it is specifically. And I want to encourage you, no, get specific. That's why when I was watching that movie that amazingly you did not know, and I did this hilarious quote. I mean, it was hilarious that I did it.
Do it again.
You didn't even know.
Shoot me up. Do it again.
Listen, man, you got to watch The Princess Bride, and then you will understand that line.
I'm going to write it down.
But even when I watched Field of Dreams, the guy, did you see that movie? Mm-hmm. You're not a sports guy, so you may. But
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Come on, you just throwing. What is it? Like, let's get on Edgar there. Let's just talk about everything Edgar does not know. Of course, I've seen Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. All right. So at the end, he plays catch with his dead father.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal to me, And if I weren't aware of the connection between the mind and the body, I could have symptoms about it. And and if you think about it, when we cry, that is a symptom. Mm-hmm. That is the mind body. It's you're having a symptom. So, but if you don't cry, it just could go somewhere else in your body. Yeah. You could have a sudden sharp pain because you're not really feeling it in the traditional mind body way. But what you want to do is to think about the specifics. So if I think about, the guy having a catch with his dad at the end, there's specifics to that. Like baseball means something to me. I never got to do that with my dad. So I get very, very specific. And I even think about things like, I watched my cousins and they got to play catch with their dad. They actually got that experience that I never did. Mm-hmm. So do you see how specific it is? Accept it. Don't try to change it. And then get specific in your understanding. And if it needs to be paired with a symptom, notice how the symptom correlates exactly in the timing. Look at the timing of things. So These are
The
very
symptom could
specific.
also be like an emotion, right? Feeling depression, feeling down. That could also be a symptom as well, right?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
doesn't have to be like a pain, right?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, actually, that's a great point. I would think of depression as a pain. It hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Does not feel good. So these are action steps. They're action steps. What can you do? And ultimately, I want you to start making a list. And I have a list of these things, like in a PDF document, and I can send them to you, and you can read through them. It might feel overwhelming at first, but you can pick which ones really fit. Ooh, yeah, that will help. Mm-hmm. Then there might be another you read, and you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Or you could be like, I know what you're talking about, but this one doesn't feel as important to me. So ultimately, you want to pick, I don't know, let's say 4 or 5 action steps, general action steps, that you really understand how they can be applied, and have them for each column. Because then if you have an onset or an uptick in a symptom, you break out your emotion column action steps. If you've got a chronic one that's not budging, you break out your doubt column action steps. If you're not feeling good about you, you break out the power column action steps. So there's always something that you can do. Now let's go over doubt column action steps a little bit.
Okay.
And don't expect this to be a finished product. It never is. This is the mind-body map is being built out, and your system within my system is being built out. So
real quick, hold on, before we go into the doubt.
Yeah.
So hearing you talk about your dad and that connection, I've been feeling a lot with my mom when I see something on TV that I see, that I think about that. So, and even going back to Vegas and thinking, because it does make sense now listening to you, because I think what I was doing, and I acknowledge, I knew what it was. I found it. I found the trigger. I'm not comfortable here. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. And one night I went outside. I'm like trying to get in my head. I'm like, okay, try to make the best of it, Edgar. You're here. It's only a couple of more days. Don't think about it so much. Don't stress it. But I think what happened in Vegas was that I was trying so hard to get rid of it, and I couldn't. Yep. So just hearing you now. So basically, what we do is we acknowledge it. We take it. Okay, I miss mom. I'm gonna miss her. I'm gonna this and this and that. And you think about it, and then eventually, you're saying you accept it, right? And hopefully, you tell your mind that it's okay.
Well, yes, you accept it, but the other thing is well, let me say something about the word accept. It's a little bit of a misunderstood word. People say accept it, and they think that if they just let it into their minds, that's accepting it. Acceptance is a much more full process. Mm-hmm. What I would want you to do is to think, you know what? I'm always going to miss my mom. Mm-hmm. It's never, ever going to stop. I'm not trying to say that as a depressing thing. I'm actually trying to say it as something you can hold close to you, as something that would feel good in a way. Mm-hmm. You will never stop loving her, and you're never going to stop missing her. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you can't live a good life. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that she's not there with you. So that
I like to think about the good moments. Moments like that. So when you feel like missed, then you think about the times that I made her laugh, with all the stupid shit that I used to tell her, and do to her just to make her laugh, even though she didn't get it half the time. So I'll think about those moments just to get me out of that depression. Like you said, I will never stop missing her. So it's got to be, which is good. I appreciate this conversation because it's showing me that I am normal, that this is normal. I'm not the only one probably in the world going through it. I'm not going to be the only one. So accept it, and for me, what works is, like I said, just turning it positive in one way or another, where we could just move on.
Turning it positive, though, is a solution you already had, and that's good. But now we're going to add solutions you didn't have, and one of them is, see how it's different to accept it? It's different to accept it like in the moment versus I accept that this is who I am forever. Like, it's okay. I am always going to be a guy who's going to miss his mom. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I miss my mom a lot of the time, and she's still alive.
Yeah.
Because it's like pre-missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's that important. It's okay. That's a part of who I am. We don't have to. Accepting yourself means you're not going to try to change you anymore.
Yeah.
The same is true when it comes to trying to find a relationship. Don't change you.
Mm-hmm.
Just actually be you. I know people say that all the time. We say
It's
it.
the problem that happens with relationships to me. And it's crazy. I talk about it on stage and it's an actual real thing. I feel like when we meet people, we're not real.
No.
You don't keep it real. You meet someone you like, you do anything to impress this person, be there more than you would normally be. And we're lying to ourselves because when everything settles down, now you're in a relationship that wait, I don't like this, I don't like chick flicks. Why, but in the beginning I wanted to watch a chick flick with you because I wanted to be with you. And now I'm like, why am I watching chick flicks? So I feel like I always tell people when it comes to relationships, keep it real. Keep it real from the get, like boom. Fart on the first night, and I'm pretty sure if she gets mad, then it'll be like, oh, there's something you're gonna have to deal with for the rest of your life. But people don't keep it real, especially when it comes to relationships.
Yep.
Which now, after all my experiences and talking to you, I'm like, yeah, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna change. I can't pretend to be someone that I'm not.
And you don't need
to impress someone else because I'm taking away from me. You know. Right. One thing that I've learned is no relationship is going to make me feel better. No relationship is going to make me a better person. Mm-mm. And it sounds messed up and it sounds selfish, but it's the truth. I can't expect to find someone that's going to bring me true happiness if I'm not happy within me.
Yep. And if you bring your full self to anything, whether it's a relationship or Vegas or wherever, then nothing can ever be wrong, really. I mean, yeah, you can like something more than not, but like you get to be you everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. And that is a good thing. Now let me take a little bit of time on the doubt column action steps.
Go ahead.
Doubt column action steps actually are in some ways more straightforward than the other ones. The other ones, you got to really sample what works for you, how you work. But when it comes to doubt, it's all about the fact, do you have questions? Do you have confusion? Do you have a lack of certainty about your symptoms? Do you have fear? That's it. And so, two things that you can do. Never stop asking your questions. Text me anytime with your questions. Mm-hmm. We can get you better and better and better from this. And remember, it's a process. The more questions you get answered, the more things that feel resolved, the better you will feel. One other thing is something I call deconstructing triggers. Triggers are events in the physical world that could easily make you think that you injured yourself doing them, or that they could lead to soreness or problems. And the thing I want to encourage you is, based on all the science and logic, the only real ways you can injure yourself are some kind of blunt force trauma where something comes crashing into you, or you fall out of a tree or something like that, or you get cut. If it doesn't come from the outside, you didn't injure yourself. And the thing is, you can use these action steps to then jump over to the other columns. Once you're out of the doubt column, and that's under control, then you can go be who you are. And you can either look in those emotional themes, which I know there's more to develop. Mm-hmm. There's this stuff about your son, which I haven't heard about yet. So we're going to talk more about it. We'll get a lot of work done on Brothers in Arms even, because we'll keep talking about it.
No, that's true.
But in between also, you can text me anytime. But the main thing that I tell people is live in your power column. Be on your journey. Mm-hmm. Be who you are. And you need to be fiercely in your own corner about that, meaning I will never compromise who I am for anyone or anything. That doesn't have to mean like we're at war with people, but it means we're not at war with ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing that I've gotten from both the books is like being in that present moment, and how living in the past causes pain and depression your emotions, and sometimes being in the future, it's another whole different set of stress and problems, because we could all sit here and be, what, tomorrow's gonna be better. I'm gonna, so I'm lately this past week I've been battling with that. So either I'm thinking about something in the past, which is my mom or whatever's happening, and then and then dealing with the future. I'm like, man, I want it so badly, or expecting something, because expectations are the worst enemies to me, at least. When we expect, and it doesn't happen, and it's the biggest letdown. It's like a trauma. That's like a blunt hit.
Yep.
When you want something and you're like, I want it, and it doesn't happen. So lately, I've been in my head a lot when it comes to stuff like that, which is trying to be in the moment, trying to slow my mind down, where I'll be like, okay, you know what, and realizing when I'm going backwards or I'm going too far ahead.
So let me make a recommendation about that. You wanna shift in and out of gears. So if something's not working, try something else. So let's say you're trying to be in the moment and you just can't. Then you could be like, okay, fine. I won't be in this moment. I'm going to think about the past. What's happening from the past here? And then you try that for a little bit. If you get somewhere with it, great. If you don't, then you say, okay, I'm going to try to get back into the moment. As a good example, I sometimes have insomnia. And that symptom, I find, comes up for different reasons. Sometimes I can't sleep because I'm anxious. Sometimes I can't sleep because I actually want to be up. I want to be doing something fun. Sometimes I have gotten insomnia thinking, you know what? I've been working too hard. I need to not work as hard. And then I get insomnia because my brain is actually saying, you fool, you have a lot of work to do. Get it done. Mm-hmm. And once I do the work, then I can sleep. So you got to remember there's many reasons you feel different ways. Cycle through the different options. This is the way I think about it, and hopefully it'll be helpful for you. But think about the different options. Sometimes you're trying to force yourself to be in a moment you don't want to be in. Other times you are thinking in ways that get you outside of a moment that you're robbing yourself of that moment. And you're going to need to consider which one's which. And you might need to try out each kind. Mm-hmm. That make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
So Edgar, I want to check in with you because we're going to wrap up in a minute or two here. This was a big journey, and it's just the beginning. But you have gotten the basic information I needed to give you. There are going to be questions you have, and the fact that you're asking questions
there's a million questions. I mean, but like you said, I'm grateful and thank you for this opportunity, and I do like the fact that we could always go back, because, sometimes it's spur of the moment, at least for me, since I'm all over, like you'll ask me something and then right there and then I can't think about it. But then being able to go back to these tapings and seeing it and then like answer it all over again, like, okay, no, this is probably what he meant. So I appreciate that as well. Because we could all talk, whatever. But the fact that this is getting taped and, it's something that could go back to, then you could be like, okay. Yep. So it has helped me. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for getting me. I feel like I'm controlling the pain, that physical pain.
Right.
Even when my knee hurts a little, then it's crazy because I think about the first session that we had when I was telling you about my triggers, about the relationships and not feeling appreciated, and you told me the story of how you felt your back pain, and instead of going, oh my God, it hurts, it went right through your mind, like, what is it? What did I just hear? And you pinned it. So I feel like I'm getting really good with that.
Yeah.
So now when something hurts, instead of entertaining it, I'm thinking like, what happened? What just happened? What just happened? What just happened? So
that's the key right there.
I feel like the pain that I was living in has gotten way better. Way, way better. Mm-hmm. But now I'm still dealing with the pain inside, the emotions, the stuff that's really holding me down, and the depression and everything else. That's what I'm battling with now.
Yeah.
But after today, you made sense about a lot of things, and hopefully I could keep on moving forward and making it better,
I know that you will, and I'll be here for you with it. And whenever I get to the end of these consultations, I tend to feel sad because they're fun. We get so much out of them. The interesting thing is with you, I know I'm going to be seeing you every week. So,
well, you know what I think you should do, Dan? I think you should just have a one weekly consultation. I could be that dude that for the rest of our lives. Every week, people could see the difference in my life, Instead of just why do 4 when you could do 24,
All right, well, we'll consider that. It's possible.
No. I'm a candidate. And like I said, though, I mean, I'm glad that we got to meet. I'm glad that we did this, because you have opened my eyes in more ways than one. And I'm glad that we got the podcast together. We got our own show together. It's going to help us as men, and hopefully that is a platform, So that, to me, is something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Because that's something to be like, okay, I could talk about this. Okay, you know what? I have something else I could talk to about the guys. This last episode that we recorded, I'm dying to see it because it was like that one was hard. And even after that episode, I went into my own head because I was like, wow, I can't believe I cried in front. Like I showed that side of me in front, and everybody's gonna see that. So like I started like I realized it was a doubt. It was a doubt. Now I'm doubting. Yep. Like, oh, what people are going to think about me when they see me like this, when they see me emotion and everything else. But then afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm glad I did it, because it's me. It's who I am,
Ultimately, right there, you nailed the whole thing.
Look how I'm ending this. Come on, Dr. Dan, why you always do this shit to me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I am good at that.
But that's, it's crazy that, and it's something that I gotta live with. It's like sometimes people think like I'm crying. It's not just crying. It's just like tears just come down. Look, I'm laughing with you and enjoy it. But it's like I feel.
Listen, the more that I become myself, the more I become.
I'm crying because we can't do no more sessions, Dr. Dan.
You know what? We'll bring you back. But it's not just because you're crying. Because I think the crying is just it's a sign of the fact that you're aligned with you. Mm-hmm. I that's what I was saying about when I was watching that movie and having that feeling. I was like, I'm totally aligned with me. So you've not only figured out how to think what's going on with me emotionally when you have a physical symptom and start to control that, but you're also you're making strides in who you are, how you're going to be that way, and how you're going to stick that way. And I think it's fantastic. So I want to thank you because it's very generous, by the way.
Thank you.
To come here and share what your experience is like. I know a lot of people are getting a huge amount out of the work that you and I have done.
And by the way, thank you. I want to shout out the people who comment on our videos and their messages as well. And I read them, and it's inspiring that our conversations could change someone else. So thank you. I want to send a shout out to all your followers who comment on it. I need to reply to them as well, but eventually I'll get there. But thank you to everyone who has followed this journey since we started it, And like I said, now we're brothers in arms. We're going to keep it forever.
Yeah, and it's not the end of this, too. We'll have you back on to check in. All right, how are you doing? Let's say a couple months later or a year later. We're going to have you back on and be like, what happened with this journey? So thank you again for your generosity about this, Edgar. It's been a pleasure. I am so glad we'll get to continue to have interactions on a regular basis.
Yes.
And I'm proud of you. I think you are an excellent, excellent person.
Thank you.
And I think you're starting to believe it.
I am.
And that's what I like to see.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Edgar. I will see you soon.
All right, Dr. Dan. Peace.
Okay. All of these mind-body consultations are a pleasure, and it is because you get to really connect with that individual person. And Edgar, as so many of you have seen, is a wonderful, wonderful guy. But it really is interesting to be working with somebody who had no prior knowledge of mind-body experience. And he's just soaking it up like a sponge. And maybe it's partially because he doesn't have all of that information coming in. We talk sometimes about the fact that information can be overloading all of you. But either way, it is really great to see that he is able to recognize when he has a symptom, to think emotionally, think, what is happening for me? And then in addition, we're also seeing that he's really getting into his power column journey. He does have questions. It is an ongoing process, and all of the normal things that people experience in these consultations got highlighted here. It was great spending time with Edgar, and I look forward to spending more time with him as well. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I will get back to you personally.